Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Confused Millennial Podcast. I'm Rachel, your host and the blogger behind theconfusedmillennial.com, and this is a podcast that comes out every other week and is all about helping you embrace more of who you are while navigating this whole adulting thing. We have awesome experts on that talk about careers, entrepreneurship, wellness, and spirituality, and all sorts of other things. And today's guest, I'm really excited about. Her name is Jena Sophia, and she is a Psych-K facilitator. So if you don't know what Psych-K is, you're definitely going to find out in this episode, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. A little background on Jena. So we actually met in January 2018 at Shaman Bootcamp with Shaman Durek, if you guys remember him from episodes 14 and 15. I met her mom, her sister, her during just two extremely transformational days. I know Eric and I have talked about it on the podcast before. And they legit are like the most magical family. We walked away. We were basically like, how can we become friends with, like, how can that become our family? Like, everyone is so tapped in, super powerful, just so transformative, I guess, for lack of a better word. And, we talk about this in the episode, Jena and I, but her mom had mentioned Psych-K to me. I didn't really register what it was. It's kind of a funny name, to be honest, like Psych-K. It sounds like some sort of drug, like you're going to go down a rabbit hole. And I was just kind of focused on shamanism at the time. And towards the end of 2018 in November, October, I started seeing more and more about it. I started watching her do some Instagram lives where she was taking people through these transformations. I started to actually listen when it was coming up around me, and it sounded like something I needed to try. So before we hit record on the interview you're about to hear, Jena did a few Psych-K transformations with me, and oh my gosh, you guys will hear about my experience in the episode, but wow, I can't even, I explained it in the episode, but it truly transformed things for me. In short, in a nutshell, in the simplest of simplest senses, it is basically combining not psychology. I'm going to probably butcher this, so definitely listen to Jena's explanation because it's going to be much better than mine. But it's combining science and spirituality in the simplest form to really create these massive transformations. If you guys have liked episodes like episode 12 with Jena Zoe, episodes with Shaman Durek, all of those types of spirituality episodes, you'll definitely love learning about Psych-K. You'll definitely probably be rushing to sign up with her. We recorded this episode in November and she was already booked out through February. So highly encourage you guys to go ahead, check out her website, check her out on Instagram, because she's going to be booking up months in advance without a doubt, because this work is truly transformational and putting the power back into your hands. So without further ado, let's hop into the interview with Jena. Welcome to the show, Jena Sophia, which I'm going to still probably call you Jena during this.
Yeah, that's fine. How are you doing?
Great. We just wrapped up an unreal Psych-K transformation. We'll talk about it more throughout this. We didn't record it into the podcast episode for you guys to hear like we've done with past guests, because this is so specific to each person. So if you guys are interested in seeing what it looks like, Jena does Instagram lives where you guys can go ahead and check it out, but it's not something you can follow along with. It's something where you really have to book a session with her, which I know you guys are all going to be jumping to do after we talk about what Psych-K actually is and all of this fun stuff. So let's start there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so Psych-K is a quick and effortless and efficient way of accessing your subconscious mind to change perceptions, limiting beliefs, and transform perceptions of traumas.
Yeah. And so like, that was the thing that I was like, coming from having my master's in counseling, things like that.
Yeah.
I was going in, I was like, okay, like transforming perceptions of trauma. This is going to be like EMDR for those that are familiar with it, where essentially it's like a rapid eye movement technique where you rewire the brain to shift the perception of trauma. And I never knew how I felt about it. I had it done on me a few times. And so during our transformation, I asked her to do a check, because she does this check to see if it's coming up as something that's weak or strong in you. Well, first, define what weak and strong mean in this context.
Yeah. So in our case, we did a distance session. So I am using a Psych-K protocol to gain permission and commitment from your subconscious mind, higher self, that it is okay, first of all, for me to connect. And then once I am connected, I am able to test on your behalf to see if there is a weak response, which means that there is subconscious stress and your brain is not thinking with both hemispheres, the right and the left brain. In that case, it was weak.
Yeah.
From what you were saying. Yeah.
And so I was like, really? I kind of like, when I think of the memory, like I don't feel engulfed in fear and like, trauma anymore. And she's like, no. Like it's testing this week. We're going to balance this. It's like, no, there's other things I want to do instead. She's like, no. Like we're going to balance this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Man. So every person's going to have a different reaction to this. I'll throw that out there right away.
Absolutely.
As I was going through it and like breathing and stuff, you're replacing these traumas, limiting beliefs, different feelings with something new. You're shifting that perception. So in this case, we were shifting it to non-attachment and I think peace. And like, I'm breathing. I'm like peacefully breathing. I'm like, okay, is this what peace feels like? I'm like, why am I asking myself if this is what peace feels like? It's probably not it if I'm having to ask myself. And so like, I kept like visualizing myself doing different things. Like my mind was just wandering. I wasn't like prompting it to do it. And then all of a sudden, my little 4-year-old self like runs out into the middle of the room where the trauma was happening. And she just throws up both of her hands and goes boogie, woogie, woogie, and like dances and then just runs through the room and leaves. And I'm like, and I just couldn't help but like smile. I was like, oh, that was the non-attachment. That was like the release. And it was just like, okay, so before when I did like EMDR, it was just not having this like severe traumatic response to the memory. Now I'd actually feel like the understanding of it being shifted into a new perception, which is so wild and why I'm so excited about this.
Yeah. I mean, Psych-K is all about handing back your power to you, right? So life is always going to have experiences for us that might not be out of love or things that, make us feel good. But it is our reaction really that determines whether or not something affects us. And through Psych-K, our reactions can be shifted through our perception so that we react to the situation differently. I mean, maybe you can speak about, we were transforming a future event of you giving birth into a state of tranquility and confidence. And maybe you want to share a little bit about what happened there for you.
Yeah, it was so cool. So like by the time you're listening to this podcast, I'll have delivered the baby. So stay tuned to my Instagram. So that way for the updates of how it all played out. But where we are right now, we're recording this in November. You guys know I switched the schedule to every other week so that I could like still have content coming out while I had a newborn. So we're here now in November recording this, and I've just finished my hypnobirthing class, which a lot of you guys had asked about. And it's like, essentially it's like meditating the baby out of your body and like you're breathing the baby down. It's kind of like breaking the mold on that like old school media stereotype of like birth is painful. And going through the hypnobirthing class and going through the different breathing exercises and meditations is like, okay, I can see how this is going to go. I have visualizations of it, but there's something inside me that doesn't feel connected to it, which is why I really wanted to do the Psych-K transformation with Jena, because like I could feel this like subconscious like not
stress.
Clicking. Yeah, the stress. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
as we're going through it again, like you guys know, like I get a lot of visions and stuff, and I am breathing, and very similar. I'm like, okay, I'm breathing for a long time. Is this what confidence feels like? I don't know. Do other people do this quicker? And so like, I'm like going through it, and like, I'm picturing myself in the different stages of birth and laboring. And then all of a sudden, I am like transported into Kuan Yin's garden, which is a place that I spend a lot of my meditations. And I just like feel this unconditional love and support and confidence and tranquility. And afterwards, when like I all of a sudden just started having like epiphanies and breakthroughs where I was like, oh my gosh, I already know what the hospital gown at the hospital I'm delivering looks like. I already know what the room looks like from the hospital tour. And it all kind of clicked and connected for me. Like the hospital gown colors are the colors of Kuan Yin's tree that I sit under whenever I go there, and this lake that's there. And then the other colors in the room are actually all colors that are in Kuan Yin's garden that I always visit. I was like, it's actually just a different quantum shift of reality of a place I've already visited. So it's already there sitting, waiting for me, this womb that I associate Kuan Yin's garden with. Like it's that room. It's not a scary hospital room. It's truly her garden. Like all of the colors, everything's already there. So that was like unbelievable to have that finally click for me.
Yeah. And in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Not even. Super powerful, super quick, and super efficient.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, like, how efficiently this works. So like, walk me through, because like, I know you've had a past, and like, what brought you to Psych-K?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to share that. So my mom actually was watching a interview with Rob Williams, who was the originator of Psych-K, and she was super fascinated, really into it, kind of pushing on to me, we really have to do this. And, other things that I do now with Reiki and flower essences, my mother actually also introduced me to those as well. So like Reiki, for example, I did that from when I was 12 years old, and flower essences I discovered about at the age of 16. So I've kind of already been in that space for a while for my own benefit, and kind of making little tinctures and giving free Reiki to whoever wanted to take it. When I was growing up, I was like, oh, look, this could come out of my hands. Isn't that cool?
Why don't you?
Like, what are you doing?
Why don't you explain for everyone? Because I know not everyone's familiar with Reiki, or even like what you do with flower essences.
Sure. So Reiki is an energy healing modality. And basically the idea is that there is Reiki energy that flows from a higher pure positive light source that can filter through my hands or distantly through your body and clear any energetic blockages that may be sitting in your spiritual, mental, physical, or emotional body. And it promotes deep relaxation very quickly, and people can feel very light and relaxed after a Reiki experience. Mm-hmm. I like to call it an experience, not a session, because it really is an experience. Some people cry, some people fall asleep, some people are really energized. It really all depends, and it's all up to their own energy of how they're going to react to the lighter, higher vibrational energy that is coming through and clearing out the lower vibrational energies. Yeah. And flower essences, so if you think of yourself as like a spiritual body or a spiritual being, we have an essence that can be read vibrationally. And there are flowers that have different uses for our vibrational body. And so I work with a lot of different flower essences for grief or for pregnancy. Speaking of, I will send you a batch of flower essences. Oh, they're really helpful. I mean, before I knew Psych-K or anything, I would, have my little tinctures that my mom would make me, and I would feel so much better. It's almost like peeling off energetic layers from your body that you cannot really, kind of describe with words. it's more of an energetic feeling, kind of how it is with Psych-K, but this is more specifically to that extra density that we carry in our being, and it lightens up that density for sure. So there are different essences for different people, depending on what they are trying to overcome, public speaking, or, any like sexual traumas or grief or divorce, literally everything. They're like, I have over 600 flowers, and I basically intuitively pick and choose after, chatting with them. But I've really kind of honed into that skill of intuition and knowing, and it's really been able to, help people maintain their higher vibration throughout the day just by like putting a few drops on your tongue or on your skin.
So cool. So you started doing that when you were like young.
Yeah, very young. I mean, compared to it was about 10 years ago. So yeah.
So cool. Okay. So you're going through and using these different, using these other modalities. No, I love that you're talking about this, because I think this is like where I've had a struggle, where you get pulled into all of these different things, whether it's Reiki, flower essences, we met at Shaman Bootcamp, like there's so many different things. So I love hearing like how all of this kind of came together and like how you honed in on Psych-K. So keep going.
Yeah, for sure. So that was kind of like, I was in school trying to finish high school. I have always had debilitating anxiety, and I know I was a very highly sensitive child, but, in my culture and back then, this mental health was not talked about, like 20, 30 years ago, like it is now. So my, I guess, discomfort when I was in school, like I would hide in the bathroom, like literally until an hour before we had to leave. I was just petrified of everything and everyone. I was super worried about my lack of control in life, and I didn't know how to ground myself and feel like I could control what was going to happen to me. I felt like the world had control over me because I never knew if I was going to be safe, or if I was going to be okay, or if I was going to do well in school or be successful, and all of these things. And these are all stresses that, as a young kid, you shouldn't have. But unfortunately, the school system puts you through that and makes you think that, you need to have this stress in order to create stability or, a comfortable life, whatever that is, right? Right. So for me, I had been dealing with these issues for a while. And then when I was 15, I was like diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had like massive fibroids on my uterus. I had endometriosis, coupled with like anxiety and depression from the birth control pills and the IUD that I was on. Literally, I remember having like my first period and losing so much blood. And my mom was like, oh no, it's just your first period. And I was like, okay. And then it just started becoming a thing where I was losing a lot of blood, like, not able to do anything, move, like completely checked out for a week. And that was really debilitating growing up and trying to function in a very highly competitive and difficult high school experience where, if you weren't making the grades or you weren't performing at that level, it was kind of sink or swim. And I felt like I was constantly sinking, and it was just getting worse. And I just felt more and more overwhelmed with the experience of my pain and just where my life was going. I just felt like I had no control yet again. So basically, jumping now 10 years, not 10 years, 7, 8 years. Yeah. And I decided to just go cold turkey because I was actually fed up. My IUD doctor, like my gynecologist, I call him my IUD doctor because he's not my gynecologist. He was an IUD doctor because he didn't help me, right? He was just like, let me stick this thing in you and it will get better. And honestly, that was the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I would never wish it upon anyone ever. Some people have great experiences and, more power to them, but I know that I was supposed to have this experience because otherwise I wouldn't be sharing what I did today. So apart from that, I decided to go cold turkey, stop taking my antidepressants, stop taking my anti-anxiety medication, got my IUD removed. They're like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. They're like, we're going to have to remove your uterus because if you take this IUD out, like your body's not going to be able to handle its natural cycle. And I was like, okay, I'm tired of hearing this. Like, I just put my hands up. I was like, you know what? What is it going to take? What do I have to do to get better? What do I have to do to get back to who I know I can be? So I decided to do that on my own volition, doctors not saying anything about the medical system. This was my choice and a personal choice that I had to make. And honestly, it was very difficult, but at the end of it, I came out much stronger. So I started to change my diet. I became vegetarian and eventually went vegan, which, as you know, going vegan after 3 months changes the expression of over 500 genes. It turns off the expression of diabetes, of heart disease, of all these things. And my father went through a massive quadruple bypass about a year before I decided to do this. And I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be ill. I'm not going to be, another hereditary statistic, so to speak. So I went cold turkey, started really learning more about what my body needed. I went to Asia for a bit, did a little bit of a detox, which was really helpful to get out and see that there was more to the world than these like concrete jungles that I've lived in, between New York and London. So that in itself was really powerful. And I was able to, start to manage my periods a little bit better. Granted, I was like knocked out for a few days, but, my mood swings are getting better. I was able to function, just being able to walk down the street and not feel like I was going to be attacked or, in some way hurt. Like I was going to, all these experiences that I had gone through, as a young girl, feeling like, people were watching me or looking at me a certain way and making me feel uncomfortable, especially wearing a Catholic school skirt and, taking the train in New York City as a young teenage girl, not the best experiences with people wearing those things. But yeah, so anyways, so when I returned from Asia, my mom had just watched the interview I was talking about with the founder of Psych-K, Rob Williams, and she was really encouraging for us to go and take this workshop, me and my sister. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I've tried everything for so long, like every homeopathic remedy. Like I didn't honestly have the strength to go there and be like, yeah, I'm ready for this. Because honestly, I've learned that you have to be ready for Psych-K. Like it's all about changing your perception on being a victim or not. That's all it is. Are you a victim to your circumstances or are you not? And I was not ready to sit there and be like, okay, so you're telling me that all of these physical symptoms are because of me? Like they're my fault? And I wasn't ready for that slap in the face, Like truly, I had activated that response within me because of reactions I chose to have in certain situations. It was still up to me. I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting. So I went to the first workshop. I wasn't really convinced. I was like, okay, this is really cool. I can like let go of stress. I can let go of past experiences of trauma I've had. I can change the perception of that. Interesting. I understand how the brain works, but I wasn't convinced that I would be able to transform my physical conditions that I had dealt with for so long. And honestly, I had no expectation. So we were lucky enough that the basic workshop was right before the advanced workshop. So we were actually able to sign up for the advanced workshop right after. And knowing Psych-K, there are only like less than 100 facilitators. So it's very difficult to find a course, let alone 2 courses back to back, right? Yeah. So we took our chance. We were like, okay, we're going to do it. I had my period. I'm laughing now because I'm thinking about, wow, like I've come a long way. Every time I think about this story, I'm like, wow, this is incredible, because this is honestly where it all began for me. This real transformation, the sustainable transformation, I like to call it, because it's been sustained, and I know I'm never going to go back to how I was ever. It's impossible.
So awesome. I think like that's the thing too with like sustainable transformations. I also love what you just said too about like taking ownership of the fact that like all the physical stuff is on you. Like I remember when I think we were in boot camp and Shaman Dirk was like, nothing is happening for like to you, everything is happening for you. Like it's the same kind of like concept I feel like here with Psych-K. Like you have to like realize that like the traumatic experiences the health symptoms, like all of these different things, like we're calling into our lives, and like we have responsibility for the choices that of what we're putting into our body, the thoughts we're thinking, the energy frequencies we're choosing to remain in, you know, like all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah, it's all a choice. It's what we're choosing. And we can either transform from it with things like Psych-K, or we can like go with the robotic drone sheep mentality of, okay, well, this is what society says, how I'm supposed to be dealing with it, or this is just how it goes, and be miserable.
Yeah.
So
and also, sorry, just to expand on that, you know, this idea that like we are helpless, we can't help ourselves because we have to rely on the medical field. They know better. Okay, it's called the practice of medicine, everybody. They don't have the answers. They don't know. We're guinea pigs. Like we are guinea pigs. All of this new medicine, it didn't exist 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, we're creating, they're testing, they're trying it out. And, you know, from my experience with pharmaceuticals, it just hasn't worked for me. It's created more problems than helped, you know? And why are we engaging in things and buying things that will, because of a potential promise, but then with no understanding of the side effects of what can happen with that potential that you're, you know, engaging in. And the only reason pharmaceuticals work is because you have receptors in your brain to receive them. That's it. You would not have pharmaceutical medication would not, or anything, any herb, anything you do would not have an effect if you didn't have the receptors to turn on and off in your brain. So just to think about that a bit.
Yeah, no, you know, it's interesting. I was just having this conversation with Eric because like we're at that stage where we have to start like interviewing pediatricians, and like in the hypnobirthing book, it talks about like, maybe it wasn't the hypnobirthing book, maybe it was in class. They were talking about like, the number of vaccines has almost tripled from the time that like one of the parents who had just given birth, what he got to what his child is supposed to quote unquote be getting today. And I'm not saying like I'm not like, I think there's definitely a place and time for the medical field and medicine and all that stuff, like 100% still supporting it. But you know, one of the things that like has always really stuck with me, which was what a different podcast guest, Preston Smiles, had said, which is like all of our questions should be answered and all of our answers should be questioned. And I think like that needs to come into place when it comes to our health. And Eric and I were talking about it, and he was like, you know, all these vaccines, it's like Darwinism, like dying out essentially. Like now, you know, we got these vaccines, the people that should have died off didn't die off. So now there's more vaccines because we're breeding, quote unquote, for lack of a better phrase, weaker people that don't have as strong of, you know, we're not getting rid of those genetics.
Which is also dogma.
Yeah.
That's also been a theory that's been pushed as a, you know, it's a theory of evolution. It's not how evolution works, right?
Exactly.
And I want to get, sorry.
No. And so like, they're just keep going into like all of they're like, I'm like, what is the next generation going to have? Like 60 like different vaccines because of like how all of this is playing out. Like, and there's no actual like need for them necessarily. Some of them we need definitely, but like some of them are really just like hedging your bet and like not necessary for every single child in this country.
Yep, absolutely. I think that, you know, when it comes to, you know, our own biology, like a book I would recommend for everyone to read if you're interested in Psych-K is The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he actually has been a pioneer of this field called epigenetics. And so it goes against this idea that, you know, this theory of like gene hereditary, right? Like we inherit what our parents had, or we are predisposed to what our parents went through and their genetic disposition. Well, that's a theory. What they're finding now in epigenetics is that the environment is what creates the reaction of the gene or the expression, right? So it's not that it's our parents, it's that how are we responding, right? How are we responding? That's creating the gene expression of how our body's like reacting, right? And so it goes back to like, you know, change your perception, you know, change your beliefs, and you're able to change your body and your life because you change the way you look at it, you expand awareness, and then you expand the ways of possibility in which you can have be or do anything.
Yeah, I love that because, especially I used to always think or I was taught, like many of us were like, oh, alcoholism and addiction are genetic. Like if your parent had them, you're more susceptible to it and this, that, and the other. And so for such a long time, I was like, okay, my issues with alcohol and stuff when I was a teenager, I'm an alcoholic. I haven't drank since I was 18. I'm not interested in drinking, but that's more because of, spiritual reasons and keeping my vessel clean. But for so long, I didn't understand whether or not I was a quote unquote alcoholic because of genetics. When in reality, I truly believe with all of the knowledge I have today, that was spiritual transformations, emotional transformations, things that needed to be shifted and lifted. And I was just using alcohol to cope with it. However, on paper or however you want to look at it, I was a quote unquote alcoholic and, I was genetically susceptible.
Yeah.
I don't think that actually
judgment.
Yeah. I don't think that actually is something that was being quote unquote expressed. I think that especially in the family I have come from, it's people not having the coping skills. It's people not understanding why they have depression from more of a shamanic perspective or why they're having anxiety. So they're just trying to dull out in a lot of ways. I don't think it's genetic markers, to your point.
No, it's definitely not. Yeah, it's definitely not. And as you were saying, the thing is that our subconscious, right, is 95% of our behavior, our thoughts, our, basically everything. Without our subconscious mind, you and I would not be able to function right now, right? Because we'd have to teach ourselves how to speak, how to, set up a computer, how to, do all of these basic things, right?
Breathing.
These are all subconscious. Yeah, anything. So it's all of these things are subconsciously rooted, but this is where it gets complicated because by the age of 7, 97% of your subconscious beliefs and perceptions are solidified. So as you were saying, thinking that you were this alcoholic, you grew up in that environment thinking that you were predisposed to that. And then that is the perception which you carried on. Your belief to understand yourself, right? And I think society today is so quick to judge and put everybody in a box. And this is the thing, we're human beings with so many different experiences and energetic patternings that we are not black and white, right? We are the rainbow, honestly. As cheesy as that sounds, we have every single color possible you can imagine. So why would it be so linear to say you are this or you are that, right? And I think the problem is when people start to use society's conditionings and say, I am this because this person told me this, or I can never do this because I was told I can't, or I'm going to die one day from cancer because my mom has cancer. These are all conditionings of choice that we are choosing to embody. We don't have to embody that. Now, if you don't want to embody it and you're looking for a tool, that's where Psych-K comes in, for me at least, because after doing Psych-K and, really working on myself after 3 months, taking the basic and advanced workshop, I transformed my entire condition. No more endometriosis, no more PCOS, no more depression, no more anxiety, no more anything, no more needing to get my uterus taken out and never having kids. They look at my uterus. It was so funny because back to my IUD doctor, he said, if I get this taken out, I will never have children. And I looked at him and I was like, who the fuck are you to say that I will never have children? Who puts that one potential and makes it everything? What, I'm supposed to just do everything you say and listen to everything you say and take it to heart because you went to an Ivy League? I went to an Ivy League too, and it didn't teach me shit, to be honest. Didn't teach me anything. Just made me, be able to repeat things and see things through a limited perspective and not be able to expand my way of looking at things because that was the quote unquote right way of looking at something. So just another system. So
you and I are on the same page.
Honestly, So then I got a new gynecologist, and I remember they were looking at my charts and they looked at my womb and they were like, is this your chart? Are you sure this is your chart? I was like, yeah, it's my chart. Okay. It's my chart. And I did that all by myself. Thank you very much. And they're looking at me and like, wow, this is a miracle case. They're like, so surprised. Like, how did this happen? Like, it's like it's new again. It was like virginized, like my womb. It was like, wow, it's new. It's like a baby. And I was just like, yeah, okay, thanks. Can I go now? And they're like, yeah, just come check back like in a few months. But like, honestly, if you're having any pain, come back like right away.
Right.
And what do you know? No pain, able to function, and haven't had a problem since. So honestly, that was like my, I guess, awakening to be like, no, we do have the power. If I can overcome this, if I can overcome these experiences and this discomfort, who's to say that someone else can't?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would have like jumped on the Psych-K train too from there. I mean, to transform something that you had for 7-8 years, you had that diagnosis, and for it to just be gone, like that. And that's the thing that I think is so cool, because like there's this big shift, I think, happening where we're starting to reclaim our power. And it's this opportunity that we have to show like how powerful we truly are. It's not outside of us. It doesn't need to be relying on other people. I mean, it needs to be us choosing to shift and transform. And it can be that simple if we allow it to be.
Exactly. And it's not that, it was a difficult process, while I was using Psych-K to transform these perceptions and these traumas that I had stored in my body. But it was like this idea that, why wouldn't it be that easy? Why does life have to be that hard? This is just another belief. Life has to be hard. It takes a long time to heal my body. Good things never come to me. These are all beliefs.
Or that healing is painful.
Or healing is painful, and it's a huge, journey. And I was living that narrative for 8 years. All this action, going to a different doctor, flying somewhere for treatment, getting morphine in the hospital just because I didn't want to deal with the pain, in a shamanic level, or figuring out the messages. What is my body reacting to? Why is it attacking me? Right? So yeah.
I was going to say, when you were talking, the thing that like comes up for me, because like at this point, like if I obviously, Eric comes from a medical family. His dad, he comes from a very long line of cardiologists. The apple fell very far from
who I love, by the way, because the cardiologist saved my dad's life. So
exactly. There
just needs to be a balance.
Exactly. There is a place and time 100% for the medical field. And so, I just had this coming up for me while you were talking, where I just really want to like point this out for listeners, which is, you went 7-8 years living with this diagnosis. You started to go ahead and make changes and decide like, okay, I'm going to become vegan because of this reason. I'm going to go ahead and explore this because of this reason. And you had said earlier in this podcast, like, you have to come to Psych-K when you're really ready for it. And so like somebody that would be coming to Psych-K and like doesn't believe it's going to work for them, like how is that going to play out for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my case, I was still, really doubtful of the potential. And honestly, if you're curious but unsure if the potential of transformation can work, I would definitely recommend going, because it's eye-opening to see that all this dogma, so to speak, that we've been given, by fields that have the money and have the resources to like get that information out. It's, you got to kind of question it a little bit and maybe like seek out if you're curious. It was all just about staying in a state of curiosity. So if you don't think it's going to work, be curious, because how can you say it's not going to work when it's worked for me and it's worked for over 100 clients I've worked with? You know what I mean? You can't say it doesn't work just because you don't think it works. I love what Shaman says. He goes, you say that you can see a green dragon. I'm not going to doubt you. Show me the green dragon. That's what it is, right? So don't write it off, because then you're just limiting your awareness of potential. Truly, when you block anything, from information at all that can expand your awareness of yourself and the world around you. So for those people that are, curious about how the transformation takes place, I would definitely recommend, reading up on it, read the science behind it. Dr. Bruce Lipton has like pioneered this, and he talks about Psych-K being the tool for him that really took him to the next level in his field and his like writing. He's wrote amazing books, and he's so lovely. I just got to meet him in London when I went to this conference for human consciousness and human evolution. So it was amazing. And we actually were able to facilitate Psych-K on the stage after. So that was pretty awesome.
That's so cool. No, it's, it's wild for me too. Cause like, I remember when I had first heard about Psych-K, and like, it was Jena Sophia, who was episode 12 of this podcast, which I highly recommend going back and listening. She like was like I just did a Psych-K session with Jena Sophia, here with us now. Thank you so much. And she was like, when we have both Jenas in the mix, I have to go with the full Jena Sophia.
Jena sandwich.
She was like, I basically just did like 3 years of therapy in like 3 minutes. Like, this is unbelievable. And I'm like, really? Like 3 years of therapy? I mean, because, coming from the therapy background and like doing things like EMDR and having my master's in it and stuff like that, opening up this entire door of spirituality. So often, like, I would have people and friends ask me like, oh, from a therapeutic perspective, like, what's your take on this depression or anxiety? And like, I was struggling so much in my master's degree because I was like, this is only like the teeniest, tiniest fingernail tip of like what's actually
the iceberg
of what's actually possible for human healing. Like, it's more than just asking this series of questions and then convincing yourself that like you got the transformation, because at the end of the day, if we're really honest with ourselves and like actually sit with the affirmations we tell ourselves and the this that we tell ourselves and the things we visualize, if we tune into our body and not all of the distractions and noise of things that are being inputted into us, we know when there's that like subconscious disconnect. Like, I truly believe in all the hypnobirthing stuff I was doing, but like I could feel like this deep inner layer of like, it's just not clicking for me yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, right, this was the knowledge that was being given to you. And at the end of the day, knowledge is power, and a lack of knowledge will create a misperception and leaves you in a state of disempowerment, right? Because you don't have the full story, you don't have the full spectrum. And that's why I like Psych-K, because it's not about me telling you, think of this or do that. It's really about putting you in a state that allows you to take these quantum leaps of consciousness and understanding about yourself, because only you can understand your perspective. Only you can understand your truth of what happened in an instance or in a situation or a traumatic event or whatever it is. I can't sit there and say, you're feeling like this because of this. I'm just there to say, what do you want to feel like now? And then you tell me, and then I set you off and you go do it by yourself, right? And that's what's so empowering about it. It's like that knowledge cannot come from anyone else but yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and how all of these things work together, like going and finding out the why you're feeling like this and stuff like that. That's really helpful. That has its place in your overarching healing, like understanding what caused this, what brought this up. So you're not like, when you're
the
back,
triggers and
exactly, when you're back in those triggering situations, like you can recognize it, but then going ahead and actually like transforming them and transmuting them with different tools like Psych-K is that next process, because it's not enough to just be like, okay, this is what triggered this reaction in me, but I'm going to keep going and having these experiences and keep getting re-triggered, or okay, I'll try
and creating the patterning that will create the triggers and create the environment of like reality. Oh, wow, it's the same situation coming back up. I'm getting triggered again. Okay, when is this going to stop?
Exactly. So like, these are all just kind of like different tools that end up getting interwoven. And so like, I love that you started off with Reiki and flower essences and then went into Psych-K, but then like you and I met at Shaman Bootcamp. I know your whole, I don't know your dad, but I know your sister and I know your mom. I'm super excited for your sister to start like stepping out more into the public, because
I know.
I probably have already said this in the intro, but if in case I don't say this in the intro, because I record the intros after I do the actual interviews. But like Eric and I have always said, like, we just like want to go and like hang out with your family. Like you guys are literally the coolest family we have ever met.
You
I'm
have
like,
to come next time you're in New York visiting Eric's side. You got to come.
oh my God, what's it called? Like seriously, like all three, her sister and her mom were all at Shaman Bootcamp. I'm like, wow, they're like, wow, this is so cool.
But you want to hear something funnier? At the Psych-K Divine Retreat, which was the last retreat, my whole family was there. So my dad, my mom, my sister, then my mom's brother, his wife, and my cousin. So like we rolled up 8 of us. There were 40 people there. They're like, wow, this is a tribe within a tribe. I was like, yeah, we're here. Like we're ready to ascend. We're here.
I vaguely remember your mom telling me that at lunch, actually, because like I don't think anything registered because she was talking to me about Psych-K at lunch. And I just don't think like, I think when you just,
like I said, it comes to you when you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that you mentioned it to Shaman and he was like, what? And then finally, like we had this time and it was just like, bam. And I find that to be happening more now, like the awakening that is happening now with this information specifically, like people that I told before are now coming to me and being like, oh my God, what is this? Like, I'm ready for it. And I think it's this mass, like, understanding of like, okay, there's something there that I'm ready not to be victim to my circumstances anymore.
Definitely. And like, that's so true. Cause like, I'm like, I know her mom kept talking to me about something and like raving about it, but like, was it this? I'm not sure if it was this. I'm like, it's definitely this. But like integrating, you know, because there's both, I find this happens a lot for me. And I don't know if this happens for you too, this like spiritual overwhelm, both of being like, both of us are manifesting generators. So we burn through things very quickly. And then there's also just like so many spiritual tools available today. So like, how do you go about navigating, I'm going to dive into Psych-K, or I'm going to dive into shamanism, or I'm going to dive into something else? Like what's been your experience with that? How do you navigate it? Because you have a lot of tools in your tool belt.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, what's been the progression, or rather the evolution of my style with Psych-K, I still give individual like Reiki sessions and I teach Reiki to like anyone's interested, but I don't market myself like that anymore because truly like I've found the thing that works for me the best and I found what I'm really good at. I still use Reiki like when I am, you know, in a Psych-K session. If someone's really emotional, I'll give them a little bit of Reiki to relax their energies. If they're trying to work through something in Psych-K and, you know, the testing shows up as them having conscious knowledge of it and they're like, how would I have conscious knowledge of it? I'll use a shamanic like clapping tool for them to get their own answer. I'm never there to say you don't know. I'm always there to say you do know. And you know, that reinforcement of you do know, people actually don't even realize that they will get the answer themselves. You know, we're so used to having everything be so quick, like all the time. If it doesn't come to us in 2 seconds, we don't know. And it's like, we do know, we just don't give ourselves the time to actually like think about it and process it. So that's something I definitely add in terms of like, you know, working with all of these tools. I definitely incorporate more of like a holistic view and approach to my Psych-K sessions. And I'm also like very intuitive. So once the energies are open, I can, you know, gauge and be able to, you know, pinpoint specific instances where I see a pattern in their creation in life, or I'll see an energy will come up to me and I'll be like, okay, I think we should work on this next. And it's never me guiding it. So when we're doing the testing, we're always getting confirmation from, okay, your subconscious, but then also super conscious, which is the universe, God, whatever you believe the higher source, the larger source out there to be. So while I will have these impulses of thought, you know, 90% they're on the right track of like, you know, this is what we should do next. But then, you know, there's that other 10% where it's like, no, that's not where we're supposed to go. And I'm only as limited as I am in my perception. You know, we have super conscious, we have the universe being like, no, this isn't your best and highest interest. You know, it's good that we can reach and tap into that other space that will really guide us to say whether or not we need something. You know, it's easy for people to, I used to, in the beginning of my Psych-K career, people would come to me and be like, oh my God, it's like instant manifestation. Can you make me a millionaire? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, we could test. And it wasn't safe and appropriate because you're not meant to have that right now, or this is not something that would serve you, for whatever reason. So it's all about letting that process guide you to where you need to go, and you'll always get what you need in every session.
So when you say it wasn't safe and appropriate, so when you're doing like the testing before, we talked about like getting a weak and strong response, but you can actually get like, oh, okay, no, we're not supposed to go there right now.
Yeah. So there's like the protocol. So like I test to see if it's a weak or strong stress. Like if you are whole brain, if you have a whole brain state, which is when the left hemisphere and right hemisphere are integrated and they're working together so that there is no stress, right? That's what happens after Psych-K. It goes from, the disconnection between either hemisphere and then connecting those two, which is why the stress goes away from, in the experience that you've had and you spoke about earlier. For the Psych-K protocol, it's actually like we get the confirmation whether or not there's a subconscious stress. Then we proceed to see if it's safe and appropriate to actually transform that stress or imprint a new belief. So that's where we get that superconscious confirmation to say, yes, this is what we should do, or no, think of something else, and, balance that perception. But yeah, it's always guided. And, I use my abilities to the extent that I can, but that's why I love this process, because we're always being guided. It's almost like you have this light that you're attached to, if you think of like this string, and it's like you're moving through this maze, and it's like, nope, you're not supposed to turn here, you're supposed to turn here, and it's helping you get to your end destination, which is back to your truest essence of really knowing who you are and getting rid of that conditioning and those things that you've had a reaction to but you didn't realize was a choice.
Yeah,
that's your reaction.
So freaking cool. No, I love that too, because I think there's sometimes times where like you're motivated for, just reason, like you're motivated for reasons that aren't necessary. Like you're trying to
thinking from, right, which is only 5%. You can only see so much.
Exactly. Like you're trying to skip ahead, but you have to always have your foundation. Like you were saying before, like you find Psych-K when you're ready to find Psych-K. Like if you're trying to skip ahead on certain things and get there before it can, I like that. There's like, okay, let's see if this is even safe and appropriate. That like gives me a lot of comfort, because it's like sometimes we do try to run ahead or cut corners and things like that, and we need to do other things first.
Yeah. And even, when we're working through, with clients that I'll have, it's like, stresses that would need to be transformed, right? So we think, of course, we can transform it, right? But then it's not safe and appropriate because it's not safe and appropriate for that moment. So we do another thing that clears out the stress that helps us get to that next level. So you want to get there, but then we might have to, take a step back and do something before we can overcome that hurdle.
Definitely. Yeah. And then, so I have another question. This is like, I don't know, shifting gears a little bit. What about just like, what have you done because I know you have a really big energy, B, you're like super powerful. How do you go about kind of like setting boundaries, protecting yourself, protecting your energy, like, I don't know. Do you care if I share this? This is kind of a personal thing. Well, it's from Rahana also. But so basically, like if you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that like when we've like explored the shamanism world, we've also kind of like explored different quantum realities. I've talked about this before where I've like had experiences with dark spirits. And I remember this had happened probably in the summer months of this year, 2018. Rahana your sister was sharing like that there was just like a lot of dark spirits that were like trying to get to your light source. So like I would love to hear some more about that and like the things that you do to really stay grounded and anchored and protecting yourself. And I think as a lot of empaths are probably listening, these are things that they could maybe try out, see if anything works for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with people that are, trying to spread light or be light workers, so to speak, there is that, darkness that can come and try to, distract or feed off. And, when I was beginning my healing journey, or when I was beginning my understanding of energies and things like that, I was very victim to these things because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I just thought it came with the, it came with the territory. Oh, I'm helping people. Well, obviously I'm going to feel like shit. I honestly thought like that was the case because I didn't see people living their best lives and being able to transform lives as well. Like I've just never seen that in my perspective.
A lot of people think like, oh, I'm a caregiver. Like this is just, I'm supposed to always stay in the frequency of burnout. Like,
exactly. And just like, help everybody but yourself. Right. But I am a true believer that, if you're not going to help yourself, then you're not going to show up for other people any better, so how much can you actually get done?
You have to give from that place where your overflow is happening, not from your actual life source tank.
Exactly. So for me, thankfully for Psych-K, every morning I do like a stress transformation where I ask Superconscious to download, the best information that I need. And I just sit there and allow the process to take place. And that really sets my tone energetically for the day. And then afterwards, at night, I'll do something called a stress transformation where I'll, transform any stress that I might have picked up, by doing Psych-K or, just even walking my dog because she's like super stressful sometimes, she's like chow. So she's just like lunging all the time. I'm just like, why? But, she's getting better actually because I've done Psych-K with her. So, she listens now. She's like, it's just, sometimes it's her personality, just you have like predisposed personalities and, it's up to your level of evolution and also what's necessary for you to change at that time. Maybe she's supposed to be like this. So I continue to stay grounded and not affected. Like, who knows, right? There's so many things about why things happen or why, you have experiences that you do. I'm not saying that Psych-K like is a tool, it's like a magic wand, not at all. It imprints the 95%, but then you have to take action. I love doing action steps at the end of my sessions where it's like, okay, now that we have imprinted this belief of I love myself unconditionally, what are you going to do to show yourself that you love yourself unconditionally? Are you going to take a bath? Are you going to go get a massage? Are you going to treat yourself to, that sweater that you had been wanting for long? Like, what does that look like to you? So for me, back to where we were about the tools that I use, I find that like Psych-K really helps me ground myself and protect my energy because I've done so many balances. That's what we call, the Psych-K process when we're balancing something. I've done a lot around, protecting my energy and only being of a frequency that attracts like the highest and best things and energies and frequencies. And so, to this date, I've never had a difficult client. That's amazing. That's a co-creation choice, right? Where I'm like, I am a frequency of people who understand, who value, and who are ready to change. That's all I want in my clients. If you're ready for those three things and you're on board, then you probably will find me and we will sync up and create the session to happen. And I'm a true believer in that.
Definitely. I remember my like first ever coaching client. I like lowered my rates and I totally stepped into her energy frequency and it reaffirmed like all of these old beliefs I had that like I wasn't actually worthy or valuable or ready to like
absolutely
have the clients that my ideal clients, if you want to call that. So I was co-creating the physical manifestation of how I actually felt about myself. And
exactly. Yeah. And like a story I have, if I can share it really quickly. So it was Shaman's birthday and he was in New York for his birthday, Shaman Durek's birthday. And, we're really good family friends, but for whatever reason, like my mom and my sister were away. So I felt like I needed to lower myself down. Like if I didn't come with all of them, it's like, who was I? Who is Jena? Like whatever. Right. So I always felt like I was part of a unit, but not seen as an individual. But that was my perception, not by what anything shaman does at all. Like I completely take responsibility for my perception. So it was really interesting because I was meant to go and he texted me, he's like, you're coming to my birthday, right? Like all of this stuff. And I said, yeah. And then so I RSVP'd to the email that said, RSVP. So I did that and I got an email back saying, okay, I'm on the list for 11, knowing that there was a dinner at 9:00. Okay. I didn't even question it because I didn't see myself as worthy of being at a table with other people in the wellness industry who are like quote unquote movers and shakers, or like who are doing things on a large social media level, right? When I know that I've been transforming people's lives and helping them reach their own power on just the same level, but just because I don't have like a K next to my like amount of followers, like that's going to really determine my worth. And it was a real wake up call because I remember getting there and he was like, why weren't you there? Like, you were on the family list. What's going on? And I was like completely taken aback. I was like, what the fuck? What was I thinking? How did I not think? Like, why did I allow myself to feel less than or unworthy of? And, you know, I went home. I was with my friend Marcella, and we went home and we did balances about being worthy of being seen in the wellness space, knowing my potential to, you know, reach, you know, millions of people, which I eventually want to do. You know, I want this to really take off because I want people to understand that it's up to them. It's all up to them, truly. And, you know, you can get advice and, you know, take action externally, but if your head's not right, you're not going to get anywhere. So I completely transformed that. And now I'm like getting asked to be on all these podcasts and like doing interviews and like publications and working with like, you know, really prominent people, really wealthy people. And it's just all because I changed my perception of feeling like I was worthy of doing that.
And so I'm so happy you shared that, because I had thought about it. I was like, oh, you should ask Jena to come on the podcast. And I was like, I don't feel like she's ready yet. And then you had shared that story actually on your Insta stories, and like, I related to it so much because the same things had come up for me when Shaman was staying with me. And I'm like, why is he staying at my house? Like, I feel like I'm not like...
I know, like, why do I get Shaman at my house? Like, Shaman's coming to my house. I'm like, oh yeah, of course Shaman's coming to my house.
Yeah,
like,
and if you listen to episodes 14 and 15, you know that was an entirely interesting experience where I was like, I had literally gazillion dark spirits coming for me, and like, God bless Shaman for staying at my house.
Shaman's in the house. He'll get rid of all of it.
He had to get rid of all for me. Like, I mean, bless him. And he like is such an amazing friend where he still is like calling me and texting me and he like, oh, we need to catch up. And I'm like, I treated you so bad that week.
But Shaman loves without limits, you know? And that's like the place that honestly we want to get to, that place of like neutrality and reaction, like not taking on people's shit.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. It's like, I know that you are going through something because of A, B, or C, but I know that I'm not D. If that makes sense. You know, like I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah. And so you had posted that you had like done your balancing, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll ask her. Let me see how this goes. And then like you did your first podcast the other day with Ashley Wood from Manifest This, who's going to be on this podcast in the future. And I was like, all right, she's stepping into it. She's gotten there. Like, I'm like, I'm going to ask her now.
Because I honestly was like ready to show up as well. And I honestly think as well, it was a timing issue because I've been doing Psych-K for like over 2 years now, but truly I wasn't ready to step into this position as like a figure in this space, right? And like really showing people, but also on some level, while I wasn't ready, I knew other people weren't ready because I had tried so hard, right? And this is a key thing here. I was trying so hard, trying to get people to be interested in it, trying to sell it, trying to like, you know, advertise it, trying to do all these things. When I was like, this is a spiritual tool with psychological benefits. This will come to people when it's ready. And you know what? I'm just going to keep using it until people are ready. And then here we go. Same with Jena, right? Jena Zoe. I had told her this 1.5 years before we actually did Psych-K, and it didn't stick. Yeah. And now it's stuck, and we talk literally like every week, and we do Psych-K. So it just shows you that I could also gauge the energy intuitively that it wasn't my time, because it's not the time for this information to really hit the millennial stage, so to speak, because quite honestly, I'm the youngest facilitator that's really, you know, on a stage that can, you know, speak on a platform about this.
That's so cool. No, I love that, because I think there is this big call of like, okay, we have our awareness. Like, you know, I feel like this for me personally, like 2018, all about like learning human design, learning astrology, like digging into like what makes you you. It's like, okay, and I always say this to like my friends and stuff. They're like, oh, you get to talk to all these cool people. And I'm like, yeah, it is really cool. Like, I'm super grateful for it. But it's like, okay, what do you do with that information next? Like, how do you transform it? Like, where do you go with it next? And like, obviously you can keep working with those people and figure stuff out with them. But like, at the end of the day, like, that's kind of your blueprint, but then there's the day-to-day action and the day-to-day reactions that we have. And I feel like 2019, like, is Psych-K and like actual practical tools of like, okay, I gained all the awareness. Self-awareness is a great jumping off point.
Yeah.
Now is like to lift and transform, and like the self-awareness part is a transformation too. I just want to say, like, I'm not discrediting that.
Yeah, of course. It's just how deep are we going to go with the knowledge of ourself, right? That's truly what it is. And like, while Psych-K, you know, as I understood it to be like, you know, help me transform all of these physical issues and mental issues and emotional issues. But I've noticed now, and I think this awakening of understanding of Psych-K really came to me in the last like few months, but I truly understand it when the instructors talk about it and Rob Williams talk about it as a spiritual tool, because it is helping you become closer to who you are and to yourself, if that makes sense. And it awakens this knowledge. If you continue to use this practice and continue to use this tool with everything, you start to realize you don't have reactions. Anger is not existent. Like, I don't react nearly as badly as I used to. And anyone that knows me before would say, okay, wow, really short fuse, like, you know, explosions, like tantrums. Like, I was horrible before, you know, combination of like that disposition plus pills plus like all of this nonsense. I mean, it created a monster. Like, honestly, my family talks about it like, wow, this is like a real rebirth here. And like my friends, it's serious though, because how is it possible that I could become a different person, but the person that I always wanted to be and always wanted to embody, and I'm here now. So it's like, if you can conceive the possibility, why would you even limit yourself to think that reality is not possible? Well, just because it's not manifesting in 2 minutes, like, you know, like your Wi-Fi loading. I mean, we got to get a little more patient with ourselves and a little bit more softer and more compassionate to understand that we are here to know about ourselves, to know about our gifts, and then use those gifts to help other people transform and expand their self and their reality.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it's about. It's so cool. I'm so excited for you. Where can people find you and like continue learning, work with you, figure out how to become Psych-K facilitators themselves, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So I'm booked up now until February. So when is this airing?
So this is actually going to be airing in February. So
okay, so probably by that time, I'm not sure where my schedule is going to lie, but I do a lot of Instagram lives. You know, I try to do them as frequently as possible, at least like once a week. So I just pick random people to come on, and, you know, I take them through a process, and that's kind of what I do. You can also go to the Psych-K official website and click under preferred affiliates, and those are preferred affiliate Psych-K facilitators who have gone through the necessary training to work with other people on a professional level. And then you can take a workshop. You can also go to the Psych-K website and look for the basic workshop, that is the beginner's workshop, and then you go to advanced. And then after advanced, there are a couple more workshops, but you just need those two as the prerequisite to take any other workshops, like the divine or health and well-being or PERT-K, master facilitation, all of those. So you can have a look at that. I also would recommend a really awesome facilitator. He does distance sessions. His name is Abid. He's based out of London, and we did some of our training together. So you can check him out at The Optimal Being on Instagram, or his website, theoptimalbeing.com. That is as much as I can offer in terms of resources.
Your Instagram name and website.
My Instagram. Oh yeah, duh. I thought that would be posted somewhere. Oh yeah, you can check out my Instagram.
It is going to be posted in the show notes too.
Okay, perfect. So my Instagram is _Jena Sophia, so JenaSophia, and my website is beyondthebelief.com. So you can check out more information on the science and more about Rob Williams. I posted a few interviews of him up there if you're interested in learning more about Psych-K.
And that's where people would find out like when you're booking up for and scheduling sessions.
So on the first page, I normally keep a schedule. So I travel a lot. So I'm going to LA and then London. So I have my schedules posted, and then I take a handful of in-person sessions depending on where I am, but I also maintain a good balance between distance sessions because I know there are so many people from all over the world that are trying to learn this and get involved. So I don't want to limit myself to just doing it where people are. So yeah.
Definitely. What's it called? And for her Instagram, there's one end too, in case you're like driving. Again, all that will be linked in the show notes for how to get in touch with her. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rachel. It was a good time.
All right, you guys. I hope that you guys learned something new about what Psych-K is. You know, we're able to take something away from my experience and Jena's experience. How wild is that she transformed her PCOS and these other, health issues she was having with it. It's truly like, honestly, I was watching people talk about it. I was hearing it. I was watching it on Instagram Live, and I was still skeptical until like I felt that afterglow of my actual sessions. I was like, oh no, this is legit. This is actually happening. And like I mentioned in the interview with Jena, like I had done EMDR before to clear out some traumas, and just out of curiosity, I was like, oh, why don't you test to see if they've been transformed? And she's like, no, they're still presenting as weak, meaning like the hemispheres aren't connecting. And I can tell you now, like when I look back on that memory, I was telling Eric about it later on and I was laughing about it. So it really like takes things from just this place of like maybe base level and actually allows you to replace it with whatever kind of feeling or perception that you're trying to put in there, which is so cool. I mean, talk about really empowering you and calling, experiences and co-creating the reality you live in back into your life. I mean, like I'm obsessed. I totally want to learn how to become a Psych-K facilitator now for no other reason than to just do it on myself all day. Because now as I go through my day, I realize how many different beliefs or different things are coming up that are creating stress in my system where I'm like, this would be a great Psych-K balancing transformation. So definitely check her out. I'll link her again in the show notes. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to screenshot it, tag me at The Confused Millennial, tag Jena at _Jena with one N, Sophia, and share it on your Insta stories. Let us know if you guys have any questions, connect with us. That way, A, I can know which episodes, what types of guests you guys like more. B, I can actually get to know you guys because one of the best things about this podcast has been connecting with you all and chatting with you all. And as always, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave 5 stars. And until next time, we'll be back in about 2 weeks. And I wish you guys all of the happiest, healthiest, most unconditionally loving, supportive energy and vibes for whatever you are going through and creating in your life today.